everyone, this is Marika and welcome back to another session of Community Health Nursing. So in our previous session, we have discussed about what is waste and what are the different sources of waste, what is the amount of waste that is produced every day and how waste will affect the health of human population. Not just human, we've also seen that waste is also injurious for the growth of plant and waste will create pollution which will cause various health problems in humans, in animals, as well as it also affects the growth and development of plants. In this session today, we are going to discuss about causes of solid waste, what are the health hazards of waste, and finally, how do we manage the solid waste. First, let us all see what are the causes of solid waste. The very first cause of production of solid waste is overpopulation. So overpopulation we have already discussed when we have discussed the sources as well. When there will be a lot of population, more number of people will generate more amount of waste. Obviously, every human activity produces some amount of waste. So if there will be a lot of population, if there will be overpopulation, it is obvious that the waste will be produced in much larger amount. So overpopulation is one of the major cause of waste production, solid waste production. For example, if we take one state of our country, Punjab. Punjab is a majorly agricultural state in India, where we have 134 cities and 12,342 villages. And according to the Central Pollution Board, the estimated waste that is produced in Punjab, in urban areas of Punjab, is around 4,000 tons of waste from one state in India, that also only in the urban communities or urban area, and in rural area 84,850 tons of cow dung or dung is produced every day. How dungs will lead to breeding of flies and insects, leading to various health problems in human population. We are only talking about one single state of India, and the amount of waste that is generated is so much. According to the population, the number of people who stay in a particular place, in a particular state, the waste that is generated or produced is also increased. Therefore, overpopulation is one of the major cause of solid waste production. The second cause of solid waste production is increased production and decreased consumption. Again, from the term itself, we can understand when the production of anything is much higher than what it is consumed by the population, obviously, the left out portion will be considered as the waste products. Therefore, if the production is much higher than what is consumed, then it will lead to generation of waste. The third one is advanced technology. So with advanced technology, when various new technologies is used to manufacture different kind of items, it is seen that the waste that is generated is much higher. So these are the major three causes of solid waste production. Number one is overpopulation. So every human activity will produce waste and therefore more number of human will produce or generate more amount of waste. The second cause of solid waste production is increased production and decreased consumption. So when the production is increased but it is not consumed by the people, then obviously the left out items are considered as waste, it is thrown away. And the last one is advanced technology. With the use of advanced technology in order to manufacture certain items, more number of waste, more amount of waste is generated. I hope you've understood the causes of solid waste production. Let us move on and see the health hazards that are caused by waste. The first thing that we need to understand is that waste, obviously every human activity will generate a certain amount of waste. So the waste that has been generated is to be properly handled. It is to be discarded properly in order to make sure that there will be no breeding of flies, there will be no invasion of insects, and there will be no new diseases that rise out of the waste. So there should be proper handling of the waste products that has been generated. When there's improper handling, it will obviously lead to breeding of insects, flies, etc., which are the major vectors or which are the major sources of spreading communicable diseases. The first one is caused by rodents and they cause diseases such as plague and salmonellosis. The second one is caused by insects and they can cause diseases such as diarrhea, dysentery, cholera, malaria, dengue, etc. The third cause is chemicals found in solid waste which causes diseases such as cancer, poisoning, and even death. Various other illnesses such as GI infection, hepatitis, and jaundice is also caused by improper handling of waste and also improper transfer of waste from the place of production to the place of disposal. Now that is about causes of solid waste and what are the different type of health hazard solid waste can cause. Now let us try and understand how to manage the solid waste. Now we are going to discuss about management of solid waste. As I said in the beginning, improper handling of solid waste will lead to various hazards. It will cause environmental pollution and it has various adverse effects on environmental health. It will cause effect not only to human beings but to plants and animals and other living organisms as well. So before we move on and see how solid waste is managed, we need to understand what is the objective of solid waste management. There are only three different objectives of solid waste management. The first objective of solid waste management is to reduce the adverse effect of solid waste. So as we have seen, solid waste may contain certain chemicals. It may become an area where insects, rodents may breed and give rise to various communicable diseases. Therefore, solid waste has adverse effect on health of people as well as animals and plants. So the main and the first objective of solid waste management is to make sure that the adverse effect that the solid waste has is reduced. It is obviously not possible to completely eliminate the adverse effect, but it can be reduced. Therefore, the first objective of solid waste management is to reduce the adverse effect of solid waste. The second one is to reduce the morbidity and mortality that is caused by solid waste. First one is to reduce the adverse effect of solid waste and the second one is to decrease the morbidity and the mortality rate that is caused by improper handling of solid waste. And the last objective is to make sure to manage the solid waste by utilizing it or recycling it. So we have majorly three objectives of solid waste management. And the first one is to reduce the adverse effect of solid waste. The second one is to decrease the morbidity and mortality that is caused by solid waste. And finally, the third one is to manage the solid waste in the right way and utilizing and reusing the solid waste. I hope you've understood the three objectives of solid waste management. Solid waste majorly comprises of three different steps. The first one is collection of the waste. The waste is generated or produced in one particular area. For example, it is produced in one particular community. So it has to be collected from there. Once it is collected, the second step is to transfer from the area of production to the area of disposal, transfer and transportation. And the last one is disposal or discarding of the solid waste. So solid waste management has three major steps involved, that is collection of the waste, transport and transportation of the waste, and finally disposal of the waste. Now we are going to study each of the steps one by one. The first one is collection of waste. As the term suggests, collection of waste is the process of accumulating all the waste product that has been generated from a particular place, from a particular community. So waste product that is generated has to be collected by the people in order to transport it and also dispose it in the right place. Therefore, in the first phase, we are going to collect the solid waste. Now, solid waste can be collected by three different methods. Now, collection of waste also has three different methods of collection. The first one is the door-to-door collection. The second one is called as curbside collection. And the third one is called as community storage point. So let us see one by one what are those. The first one is door-to-door collection. Again, as the term suggests, the waste that is generated is collected from door to door of the people. This is one of the most common way of waste disposal even in our areas. There will be a certain collection team. There will be waste collection team who comes to a particular place wherein people who produces waste will take their dustbin with the waste and give it to the people who comes to collect the waste. They empty it in the vehicle that collects the waste and give their container back to the people. Door-to-door collection is reaching out to people's home and collecting the waste that has been generated. People usually come with their dustbins, give it to the people collection staff, and they empty the containers of the people to the collecting vehicle and give their containers back. That is door-to-door waste collection. That is the first method of waste collection. The second one is the curbside waste collection. In curbside waste collection, it is similar to door-to-door collection, but here the people are asked to segregate the waste that they produce inside the house according to the type of material. Once they have separated the waste, they can leave it outside. The dustbins are left outside the house in a particular point so that the waste collection team can come and collect the waste and leave the dustbin back in the place. The first one was called as door-to-door collection, where people will take their garbage bins and give it to collecting staffs who will empty the bin in the vehicles and give it back to people. In curbside collection, the domestic waste is also segregated according to the types of waste that is produced, and it is left out in a certain point. It is left at the curbside of the community where the collecting vehicle comes and collects the waste and leaves the bin right there in the place. And the last one that we have in collection of waste is community storage point. Again, as the term suggests, in community storage point, we have a fixed place where bins are kept, where dustbins are kept, where people can go and empty their personal bins in the main community storage bins. So once the community storage point is filled up, the collecting agencies will come and collect the waste materials. I hope you've understood the three methods of waste collection. The first one is door-to-door collection, the second one is the curbside collection, and the third one is community storage point. In the first type, we collect it from door to door. The second one is curbside, where people segregate their material and then they leave in a curbside where collecting agencies will come and take the waste material. And the third one is community storage point, wherein there is a fixed place where community bins are kept where people can go and empty their waste products. But if we talk about our country, India, we see that the collection of the waste is very poor. That is the reason why we see the waste lying around in streets and roads and every open area. In some of the areas, in some of the places in our country, it is even absent. The collection of waste is not done, and because of that, the waste products are thrown everywhere, which give rise to various kind of diseases. So as I said, the garbage is left out like that in open area. The heaps of the garbage will obviously lead to some foul smell. It will also become a breeding place for insects and rodents and lead to various communicable diseases. So that is all about collection of waste. Let us talk about transfer and transportation of waste. Now that the waste is collected by collection agency with the help of collecting staff, and they have a vehicle for the transportation of waste. So how does this transportation work? How it is done? Let us see in detail. The waste that has been generated, as I said, has to be transferred from the place of production or the place of collection to the place where it is to be disposed. Therefore, the waste that is produced is transferred with the help of collecting vehicle. But even then, in India, if we see, we find around 2 to 5 vehicles in a particular city where the population is around 10 lakhs. So it is obvious that the waste generated is much more, and it is not transferred properly because of the less number of transportation vehicles. In various countries which are developed, such as USA, Sweden and Canada, we find pneumatic pipes that are laid down for the transportation of waste materials. With the use of pneumatic pipes, it saves a lot of time as well as a lot of energy for the people. That is about collection of waste. Let us now move on and see methods of waste disposal. Before we discuss the methods of waste disposal, we need to understand that no single method can be considered as a suitable method for waste disposal. For different kind of waste, there are different ways, different methods that are to be used, and one particular method cannot be chosen as the best method of waste disposal, or it cannot be only chosen as a suitable method of waste disposal. Before we choose any method of waste disposal, we need to see the availability of the personnel who work for the waste management. We have to see the availability of the vehicles, availability of the land, as well as the cost that is involved in using the method which is selected. So, one single method cannot be chosen as a suitable method for all types of waste management. There are different types of waste that is produced, and it is obvious that we cannot choose one method as the best method. Different methods can be used in different situations according to the availability of the land, availability of the personnel, as well as the cost that is involved in managing the waste. Under method of waste disposal, we have four main methods. The first one is called as open dumping method. The second one is called as controlled tipping method. The third one is called as volume reduction method. And the fourth one and the last one is called as composting. The method of waste disposal is different and there are majorly four methods that are used. We are going to see in detail what are those methods of waste disposal. The first one, as I said, is open dumping method. In open dumping method, again, as the term suggests, the waste products are dumped in vacant plot or open areas. Now, as this waste product are thrown out in the open areas in a vacant plot, so the bacterial action will cause reduction in solid waste and finally, gradually the waste is converted into humus. The first method of waste disposal is open dumping, wherein a vacant plot or open space far away from the residential area is chosen to dump the waste materials. Those waste products are dumped there and over a period of time, bacterial actions takes place which will lead to the reduction of the solid waste, converting the waste into humus. Now, when we do this, it is obvious that there will be certain advantages as well as certain disadvantages. What are the advantages? Let us see. The first one is the open dumping method of waste disposal is the cheapest method of waste disposal. So here we do not have to perform any kind of work. The waste is taken, a vacant plot is found and it is disposed in that area. So it is one of the cheapest method of waste disposal. The second advantage is that the open dumping area is also used in order to reclaimate the low-lying areas. If there are any low-lying areas, in order to reclaimate those low-lying areas, open dumping can be done. Now, these are the two advantages of open dumping. There are obviously disadvantages as well. The first disadvantage of open dumping is, as we are discarding the garbage in open area, the heaps of garbage will cause environmental pollution. It is obvious that the garbage or the waste will produce pollution. It will provide breeding areas for the flies, mosquitoes, and other insects which will spread the diseases. The third disadvantage is that the stray cattle, pigs, dogs, or any kind of animals may feed on those kind of waste materials which can be toxic for the animals. Another two demerits of open dumping is that it causes pollution, it causes water, air, and soil pollution, and it also produces foul smell. I hope you've understood what open dumping is. In open dumping, a vacant area is selected and the garbage or the waste is disposed in the vacant open areas. There are certain merits as well as demerits of open dumping area. When these waste materials are discarded in the open area, the bacterial action will take place over a period of time. Those materials are eventually broken down and it forms humus. The second method of waste disposal is controlled tipping. Controlled tipping is also called as sanitary landfills. Sanitary landfills or controlled tipping is an engineered operation and it is used according to acceptable standards. Let's understand the basic principle of the controlled tipping. In controlled tipping, a particular area is selected for disposing the waste material, but the waste material not disposed in the open area like that, but a pit or a dug is made in that area and the waste material is disposed inside the pit that is formed and it is covered by the dug out material. So in controlled tipping, the basic principle in controlled tipping is to make sure that we dig the areas in order to make sure that the area is large enough for us to dispose the waste materials or the garbage, and once it is disposed, it is covered by the dug out material. And in controlled tipping, the material is covered at least with 6 inches of soil. I hope you've got the basic idea of what controlled tipping is. Controlled tipping is also called a sanitary landfill. And in controlled tipping, a land is found, and once the land is found, it is dug up. A pit is made in the land, and then the waste material or the garbage is discarded in those lands inside the pit. Once it is done, the soil is used. The dug out material or the dug out soil is used in order to cover the garbage that has been disposed, and the thickness of the soil used to cover the material is at least 6 inches. Now, in the very beginning of controlled tipping, I told you that it is an engineered operation. So, the engineering aspect of controlled tipping includes the drainage, wind direction, distance from the area of collection, the size of the pit, and the size of the pit, etc. Again, under control tipping, we have three different methods that are used. Control tipping is a process where a pit is made in order to dispose the waste material. Once the waste material is disposed inside the pit, it is covered with a layer of soil, 6 inches of soil, in order to make sure that the garbage is inside the soil. But for control tipping as well, we have three different methods of control tipping, which includes the trench method, the ramp method, and the area method. The first one is the trench method. So in trench method, a trench is made which is around 2 to 3 meter deep and 4 to 12 meter wide. And the trench, once it is made, is filled with all the garbage, and then it is covered up with the dug out material. The second one we have is the ramp method. In ramp method, we select the land that is a little slopy. The garbage is dumped in the slopy area and it is covered with the dug out material. The third one we have is the area method. In area method, the gaps, the depressions are filled with the garbage, and again some amount of material is required in order to cover the waste material from above. The waste material is dumped inside those areas. It is covered with the soil and uniform layer is made. So these are the three methods used in control tipping. We have the ramp method, the trench method, and the area method. In all the three methods, we dig a pit and the waste product is discarded and the digged out material is used in order to cover those areas. In the trench method, we've seen that a small trench is made which is around 2 to 3 meter deep and around 4 to 12 meter wide, and then in the trench we discard the garbage and then cover it with the soil or the materials. In the second method, we have seen in the ramp method, a slopy area is chosen. Some digging is required in order to make sure that we have the covering material, the waste products are discarded, and the digged out material is used to cover the portion. And the last one that we have is the area method. In area method, we usually find the gaps or the depressions where those materials are discarded and a little amount of soil is used in order to cover those areas. Let us now see the merits of control tipping. The very first advantage of control tipping is that it is one of the most useful method of waste disposal if it is well planned and properly executed. So if it is well planned, if it is executed properly, it is implemented properly, then it is one of the most useful method of waste disposal. The second benefit is that in controlled tipping, we are not leaving out the materials in an open area, and therefore there will be no breeding of any kind of insects, rodents or flies, etc. Therefore, it will also reduce the spread of communicable diseases. The third benefit is that as it is not left out in the open, the odor or the smell that could be produced by leaving out the materials in the open area is also decreased. So there are three major merits of control tipping. The first one is that if properly planned and implemented, then it is one of the most useful method of waste disposal. The waste product, as it is not left out in the open, it does not produce any kind of foul smell. And the last merit is that as the waste product is not left out in the open, the breeding of the mosquitoes and the flies does not take place. Therefore, it will also decrease the spread of communicable diseases. Let us move on and see the demerits of control tipping. The first demerit is that control tipping, ramp method, trench method, as well as area method cannot be practiced near residential area or any commercial area. So of course, in residential areas, in airports or in near commercial area, it cannot be used. The second disadvantage is that it is an expensive method because of the use of bulldozers. In order to dig the pit as well as in order to cover the waste materials with the dug out material, we need bulldozers. So obviously bulldozers will be expensive. Therefore, control tipping becomes one of the expensive methods. Another demerit of control tipping is that decomposition of the waste product will release certain gases. It will produce certain gases, and if small vents are not made for the gas to be released out of the soil, then the gas might burst. Therefore, small vents are required in control tipping method. If those small vents are not present, the decomposition of the waste will produce certain gases, and these gases will burst if small vents for these gases to move out are not made. And finally, the last disadvantage is that if the control tipping is not properly planned, then it will lead to various harmful effects, various adverse effects. So that is it for today's class. Today we have discussed about the causes of solid waste and also various health hazards solid waste can cause. And then we also had a discussion on management of solid waste, under which we have discussed about open dumping and control tipping. We still have two more methods of waste disposal to be discussed, which includes volume reduction production method, and composting. I hope today's class was helpful and you've got an idea about what are the various methods used for waste disposal. We're talking about solid waste disposal. In our next session, we are going to discuss the remaining methods of solid waste management. Thank you and have a great day ahead.